Greetings, my fellow freedom-loving sovereign thinkers. Thank you for tuning in to LO3 Podcast. My name is Craig, transmitted from the beautiful swampy Mango, South Florida. And today's date is Saturday, July 11th, 2020. So let us begin. Oh, okay, kids. Hope everyone's doing well. Yeah, so it's, a lot of interesting stuff is happening. It looks like the city of Utah is on a state of emergency. Looks like a lot of police-related incidences that's been occurring in a good period of time. I know I have talked about on some of my past archives. Talked about some of like one of the shootings happened to a young man. It looks like it's multiple victims or assailants, whatever you want to call them. Many of them claim to be justifiable. However, the people in that community is really questioning it. And I did post it on Facebook and Twitter pertaining to Salt Lake Tribune did an article on that. Very disheartening, too. And some of the actions could have been prevented, even from the deceased. The videos I've seen. But sometimes you got to look at everything more, all angles. Disheartening thing, people have to look at police officers too, many of them on a human element. They're human beings too, and they have feelings and all that as well. And they don't like, oh, I want to see how many people I'm going to kill tonight, or shoot. Come on. It's like, you're going to have criminal elements, but you're not going to see that on all of them. There's a lot of controversies in that area. They had some protest in that, and it looks like some people are smashing, there's claims that people are smashing property, glass and all that, which is not good. And that's why you always got to beware of the infiltrators, provocateurs, and plants in these protests and rallies, etc. From all sides. I always give everyone always forewarn all my listeners on that matter. And it is very morose indeed. And there's areas in Salt Lake City I wouldn't even go, okay? Like, the very south end of then downtown is an entrapment zone, I call it. I remember one time a colleague of myself were out there trying to find a place to stay. And there's one place, like $200 a week, went in, and it's like, looked right there and just walked right out. I'm like, shit, if I want to, sorry about that. I'm like, shoot, if I want to, go to jail, just hang out there. It's like an entrapment zone. And don't get me wrong, it's an interesting city, by the way, Salt Lake. So I'm going to tell you this, even though they may have a lesbian as mayor, but the Mormons still run the state, hands down. So, it's just a very disheartening thing what's going on over there. It's just an example of what's been happening. Of course, they try to use the George Floyd thing as a 24/7 excuse as well, which is unacceptable. And like I said before, it is social engineering on what occurred. And many other places, too. I've been looking through some of the articles. And something like even Seattle police, they have maybe diagnosed with PTSD since what's happening, since they've been demoralized, spiritually and all that, defunding and so forth. And people know where I stand on it. I always support reforming, but not defunding the police. Only way to reform is federalize money, militarization, etc. That's real dangerous. I always found it very dangerous for a very long time, even since 9/11. And I've always got to look at that element as well. In qualified immunity, you have to always question these. Hey, if you're going to do it on the police, they should do it themselves, the politicians themselves. No more of this qualified immunity crap. All right, and that's how you got to look at these areas. So, enough of my rant in that area. Oh, one more thing, too. This morning, I was at a supermarket. I see a brief title about the Major League Soccer ritual powerful message. No, it's more comical. I talked about them in my past rant. Take your Marxist propaganda and stick it, as far as I'm concerned. I don't buy it. You know, those Kool-Aid drinking players out there and their minions. No. It's going to backfire on you when you least expect it. So, well, you know what? So, here's something I'll be talking about. It'll be about Roger Stone. Yeah, there's some big controversies with him. Some people like having a cow on his release. Others a little bit are thrilled because they believe he's been. They tried him in bad faith. So this was almost gonna. So I decided to look into it, and I found a decent article here from the newamerican.com. Yeah, it's John Birch Society, but you know what? They got some good intake. So I always tell folks observe responsibly. It says Roger Stone is now a free man after Trump commutes prison sentence. Roger Stone, who in a few days was set to begin his prison sentence related to the Mueller investigation, has now had his sentence commuted due to an executive grant of clemency signed by President Trump on Friday. In a statement from White House Press Secretary Kayleigh McEnany said the president based his decision to commute the Republican strategist and Trump's ally sentence based on egregious facts and circumstances surrounding his unfair prosecution, arrest, and trial. Just to let you folks know, he was not just a Republican strategist. He's a confidant, a hustler. He actually was I saw read some articles in the past. He actually pushed for Scott Israel as sheriff way back when. Roger Stone is the victim of the Russian hoax that the left and his allies in the media perpetrated for years in an attempt to undermine the Trump presidency. Inani, whatever you want to call it. Hopefully, I'm probably butchering her last name here. Wrote in the Friday night statement, there was never any collision between the Trump administration or Trump campaign or the Trump administration with Russia. What collision was never anything other than a fantasy of partisans unable to accept the result of the 2016 election. The collision delusion spawned endless and farcical investigations conducted at a great taxpayer expense looking for evidence that did not exist. McEnany asserted that the Mueller team, lacking an actual collision or related crime with which to charge the president, Trump's associates, resorted to process base charges leveled at a high-profile people in an attempt to manufacture the false impression of criminality lurking below the surface. It's interesting because even the people in the House were going after Mueller, and he couldn't really, he had no merit, and people still buy, I believe. So no, there's no such thing as believe. If you don't have enough evidence and you believe, that's assume. It makes an ass out of you and me. But there's people still buy it because they hate one man so much. And don't get me wrong, I'm critical towards Trump myself, but when I tell people, if you're going to be critical, have merit and don't be a parrot. But it's okay for Mueller to be to cover up 9/11 in the Sarasota probe on 9/11, right? That's exceptional. He's such a great man because he's going after Trump. Please spare me the moment. So I'm going to continue on here. These charges were the product of a recklessness, born frustration and mouth, she added. The statement noted Stone's prominent career in politics when encompasses 50 years of custodying for well-known Republicans such as former President Ronald Reagan, Senator Bob Dole, and others. McEnany, McEnany, also noted that Stone is known for his outspoken support for President Donald J. Trump and opposition to Hillary Clinton. The statement closed the Mueller investigation, a probe born of frustration and malice that found no evidence of collusion. Instead, they charged Stone for his conduct during their investigation. And McEnany maintains the simple fact is that if the special counsel had not been pursuing any absolutely baseless investigation, Mr. Stone would not be facing time in prison. The press secretary on to condemn the way in which the FBI arrested Stone, noting that the elected political figure is a 67-year-old man with various medical conditions who had never before been convicted of any crime. And I still have a question. Was Sheriff Gregory Tony have knowledge of his arrest, and did he approve it or not? I never got an answer from that man. And he wants to run for sheriff again? Please. But rather than allow him to surrender himself, they used few dozen FBI agents with automatic weapons and tactical equipment, armored vehicles, and amphibious units to execute a pre-dawn raid of his home, where he was with his wife of many years. Notably, CNN cameras were present to broadcast these events to live live to the world, even though they swore they were not notified. It was just a coincidence that they were together with the FBI early in the morning. Speaking of that, good interview to check out on the Common Sense show. Was it Dave Hodges actually interviewed Roger Stone, and it's very interesting. And Roger Stone said when he got a phone call from CNN saying, "What's your address?" He knew right there he was gonna go to jail, so he had everything set up, ready to go. And he got a phone call from the police officer as well. So, got tipped off. So he was like dressed, ready to go. Okay, so I'll continue on here. McEnany also questioned the manner in which the trial was conducted, including the court's decision to allow a jury forewoman who concealed her resistance to and deep criticism of Trump's presidency. Moreover, the statement argued that Stone's health would be in serious risk in prison. Stone was to report to prison on July 14th and serve for 40 months after being convicted in November of last year on 7 counts of obstruction, witness tampering, and making false statements to Congress. If Congress lies, it's called exceptionalism. We got qualified immunity. Please. Talk about hypocrisy to the core. Stone had repeatedly denied any wrongdoing and appealed his conviction. The commutation means that while Stone is not absolved, as he would be under a pardon, he will not have to do the prison time. Stone has signaled that he will continue fighting to have his name cleared through the appeal of his conviction. The president does not wish to interfere with this effort to do so, McEnany wrote. At this time, however, and particularly in the light of the egregious facts and circumstances surrounding his unfair prosecution, arrest, and trial, the president has determined to commute his sentence. Roger Stone is now a free man, she concluded. And you could get the link on his statement from the press secretary. You can read it yourselves, folks. She told the Associated Press that the president called him Friday evening to tell him about the commutation. Democrats reproved the move, which they call another example of President Trump undermining the rule of law, along with the Justice Department's recent decision to drop all charges against former National Security Advisor Michael Flynn, who, like Stone, faced process crime charges related to the Mueller investigation. Now, like when they say undermine the rule of law, could you explain to me the people who are these Democratic douchebags, and don't get me wrong, I'm critical of Republicans as well, do you tell me Nancy Pelosi, Ted Deutsch, dumbed down Debbie Wasserman Schultz, how does the impeachment of President Trump abide by the rule of law? You can't, because you're a bunch of confounded hypocrites. Okay, you're nothing more than frauds, phonies, and treasonous scumbags. Yes, I said it, folks. You could tell them I said so, and I don't give a damn. Nothing more than criminals. House Intelligence Committee Chairman Adam Schiff called the commutation offensive to the rule of law and principles of justice. Yeah, he's probably using a penile microphone. He made that statement because that man's another freedom-hating sap that makes Benedict Arnold a patriot. That's right, Adam Schiff. He's one of those psychopathic, zombie-looking people. Ever see how he stands? He should be, if they ever make Shaun of the Dead 2, he'll be perfect. The Democratic National Committee Chair, Tom Perez, meanwhile, asked if there's any power Trump won't abuse. Well, the people you support are no better. They've been there for a long time. What's the matter, Chairman Perez? You hate the competition? My heart bleeds for you. After staying on the side for so long, President Trump has at last put the brakes on one of the deep state's most high-profile hits. Yes, and even myself, I'm not a Roger Stone lover by any means, but you gotta question all these things. I could tell you this. Remember, they try to use the whole WikiLeaks thing too, right? Remember that on Roger Stone? Because this will be a big bump, a big obstacle for if they're gonna try to extradite Julian Assange to the same base courthouse which Roger Stone had to go through. Something to think about, folks. Doesn't matter if you love Roger Stone or not. You always got a question. You got rogue elements in Washington, D.C. too. And they've been getting away with it for all these years, but now they got competition. Why is that? Because they got a lot to hide. They may be exposed. It's simple. All you got to do, folks, is look at their voting record. It's self-explanatory. So, can I say, Roger Stone can still have to. Roger Stone have to serve time. Good, because hey, how come then some of these prisons in the federal level they're getting rid of violent criminals, convicts, but they want to put him in there? Give me a break. Talk about bigotry at its finest. Damn right. So that's how I look at it, and you know what? Good for him. Because, like I said before, he never got a fair trial. And I like to see Roger Stone ask Sheriff Tony, how come he never jumped in? He could have put a halt to that. You should call his ass out, Mr. Stone. I can see what Sheriff Tony has to say about that. I don't need another Scott Israel, Nick Navarro, or Ken Jenney trying to represent the people of the county. Supposed to protect people's rights, not be selective. That's his oath under Article 2, Section 5 of the Florida Constitution. So you know what? I gotta pay some homage to President Trump. Yes, I could bust it. I can call him out too, but this is a cloak and dagger extravaganza, folks, and I find that all right. Yeah, so you can actually look it up. You could check on the whole thing with the statement, regarding Roger Stone. Came out yesterday, so he signed it. And let's just say everyone, oh, it's illegal. No, not really. He's not pardoned. And in an interview with David Hodges, he says he don't want to be pardoned because that's more of a conviction. And he's right. He don't want to be convicted. He wants to fight this to the core. It reminds me when Andrew Johnson wanted to pardon Jefferson Davis for treason, and he told President Johnson, "Don't pardon me. I want to fight this. If you pardon me, then I admit I'm guilty." So, which is fair enough. This is from the Dave Hodges Common Sense Show link, and it's entitled, "After the lockdown and race riots, this is what will take America down." So, as it says here, a little bit. He has to say here. America is going through a softening up period. It is clear that plan to destroy America in its present form is America is being torn apart. The nation is disintegrating into self-serving regionalism. Presently in America, there is a globalist-inspired effort to destroy the United States from within. What's going on now is theater for the real and planned takedown of America. Let's start with where are presently at, and then move the plot forward. Awakened Americans are keenly aware that America is being taken down by a Bolshevik subversive leftist force and Democratic Party on behalf of their deep state controllers. Up until this time, America has been subjugated by greatly exaggerated and quickly burning out bioweapon that does not significantly impact most of the citizens in this country. Yet, despite the ever-growing evidence of a significantly dropping COVID-19 death rate, the restrictions are increasing on America because of the fraud associated with data collection and COVID-19 assessment for a multitude of reasons already covered in depth on this site. This can only mean one of two things. One, the treatment for COVID-19 are increasingly so successful that America will not even need a vaccine to combat the virus. There is no question that there is some truth to the statement. However, the treatment is still catching up with need. Two, the most likely scenario lies in fact that it is unlikely that the death curve compared to the infection rate contains massive fraud, because right now the death curve and the infection rate are negatively coordinated, i.e. meaning that as one measures go up, the other goes down. This is a negative correlation, meaning there is no correlation between infection and death rates, which is highly unlikely. And if true, expect for those with underlying conditions where COVID-19 effects become exaggerate. It does not matter if somebody becomes infected. In fact, it leads to the desirable herd immunity condition, which is desired. So how a negative correlation exists? It is highly likely that the pseudoscience techniques used to diagnose are having an unwarranted and false affection on the situation. In other words, there's fraud on data collection side with regard to infection. The model for the lockdowns is deteriorating because of our eyes. Subsequently, that extremist left has temporarily took the eyes off the ball. They used the George Floyd murder to launch as well-coordinated attack every blue city state with the help of local Democratic politicians. The so-called well-orchestrated race riots are showing signs of burning out as well. Therefore, one has to act what is next. And what is next is a withdrawal from the Union. When the violence has completed the task of totally destabilizing the United States, we can expect that the job will be completed through a series of two actions. One, secession, and two, a mop-up Red Dawn invasion. This article will take a closer look at secession. Here, the original idea for withdrawing from the Union began with the Civil War, 1861 to 1865. Obviously, that movement fell short. However, the concept of breaking up the Union and returning in the early 70s under Richard Nixon in the United Nations in his 10-region unit creation, which was designed to replace the 50-state model. It's interesting because they talk about the Civil War, or the war of the of the rebellion. They said the banksters were involved in that. Like the Rothschilds were funding both sides. So I understand what he's saying. So I only call it a civil war because a lot of things had happened from both sides, and even the states, the southern states, including South Carolina, were getting really slapped. It got slapped in the face when they tried to do tariffs of goods on them in many of the southern states because they do a lot of raw material. There's a lot bigger than there's a lot of things that occurred, and the banksters themselves, as far as in my opinion, based on my homework, they benefit the most. So this is interesting here because they talk about the 10 regions. Of course, I live in Region 4 according to this. And of course, they tell you all 10 regions, the New England area, and 5 is Minnesota, Ohio. And of course, you got Washington, Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, Maryland, Delaware, West Virginia. Virginia has 3, and 6 is in near Texas, Louisiana, Arkansas, Oklahoma, and New Mexico, and 9, Arizona, Nevada, California, 10, Idaho, Seattle, Idaho, Oregon, Idaho, Oregon, Washington, Alaska. I think 9 is Hawaii, is in there too, and Guam. So in the modern era, the breakup of the United States first appeared in Richard Nixon's division of America into 10 FEMA regions, this becoming a rough draft model for the planned breakup of the United States. Today, these regions exist as FEMA regions, but many as they could return as an organizational structure which replaced the United States' territorial organizational formats. Oklahoma split apart. One has now to wonder if the Supreme Court covertly behind the plot breakup the United States. To heighten suspicions, only has to look at their last Supreme Court decision, which broke apart the state of Oklahoma. In doing so, the court overturned 104 years of history. I'm not denying that there is not a poetic or real justice here, but it's possible to push back at the hands of time. Is the Supreme Court covertly behind the plot to break up the United States to heighten the suspicions? One only has to look at their last Supreme Court decision, who broke apart the state of Oklahoma. In doing so, the court overturned 140 years of history. I'm not denying that there is not poetic justice here, but it's possible to push back in the hands of time. And he said that twice? I'm like, yeah, interesting. But it's based on the treaty too, folks, and you can see it right here. And it looks like some of Tulsa maybe on the Creek territory. So it's remember, if you look at the license plates of Oklahoma, it says Indian Territory. But on the surface, this looks like we now have a 51st state when dust clears from this ruling. If the Supreme Court will do this to existing homeowners who had nothing to do with the death of native land, that will prevent them doing the same in the following manner. Before their real invasion of the United States commences, they're going to be a fifth column forces who are absolutely dedicated to the establishment of La Raza's pipe dream of taking several states from the United States and creating their own nation. Yeah, Aztalan. Yeah, okay, Aztalan. And perhaps greatest domestic strength lies in taking in immigrants and assimilating them into our country as Americans. However, what Obama wants and is in the midst of doing is nowhere near what we bargained for as a nation. There are two groups who have repeatedly caused the seizure of these several states and make them into an independent country. And these two groups are La Raza and Mecha, which is funded by our tax dollars, okay? The concept of Aztalan has been sanctioned by the United Nations. This is the same UN as transporting military-grade vehicles within the United States. This, too, is a violation of our immigration law, not to mention national security. These groups have historically taught that Colorado, California, Arizona, Texas, Utah, New Mexico, Oregon, and parts of Washington State make up an area known as Aztalan, a fictional ancestral homeland of the Aztecs before Europeans arrived in North America. Mecha's founding principles are contained in these words in El Plan Espiritual de Aztlan, or the spiritual plan for Aztlan. And it says here, this is a quote, in the spirit of a new people that is conscious not only of its proud historical heritage, but also of the brutal gringo invasion of our territories. We, the Chicano inhabitants and civilizers of the northern land of Aztlan, who whence came from our forefathers, reclaiming the land of their birth and concentrating the determination of our people of the sun, declare that a call of our blood is our power, our responsibility, and our inviolable destiny. Aztlan belongs to those who plant the seeds, water the fields, and gather crops, and not to the foreign Europeans. We are bronze people with a bronze culture. Before the world, before all of North America, before all our brothers in the bronze continent, we are a nation, we are a union of free pueblos. We are Aztlan. For La Raza todo, Ferrer de la Raza nada, Chicano is our identity. It identifies who we are as people. It rejects the notion that we should assimilate into the Anglo-American melting pot. It's funny because Spain was actually conquered them. The Aztecs. Aztlan was a legendary homeland for the Aztecas. It became synonymous in the vast territories of the Southwest, brutally stolen from a Mexican people, marginalized and betrayed by hostile custodians of the Manifest Destiny statement of University of Oregon Mecha website, January 3rd, 2006. I knew about this way back too. Miguel Perez from the Cal State's Northridge's Mecha chapter stated the ideology is the liberation of Alderton. Communism would be the closest to it. Once Alderton is established, ethnic cleansing would commence. Non-Chicanos would have to be expelled. Opposition groups would be quashed because you have to keep power. Sounds like the Ku Klux Klan, right? Yeah. Hispanic Ku Klux Klan. The National Council of La Raza and its allies in public office make no repudiation of the racial mecha and its position. As recently as 2003, La Raza was actively funding mecha according to the federal tax records. However, since La Raza began to receive federal funds, La Raza has adopted a less militant stand. Interesting. So, bribe them. At least publicly, where they say they no longer support when Christie de Alzaton. However, when one examined where proposed federal money was designed to go under S744 and go to the pockets of La Raza and Mecha, it is impossible to believe that is the core. La Raza does not truly support the concept of Alzaton. This is where Alzaton started. Ooh, about that? I think I goofed up here. No, I didn't. Okay. Will the Oklahoma Supreme Court ruling has set a notion more action? A good case can be made as evidenced by the following. Interesting about this because about the Oklahoma Supreme Court. If a treaty has been honored, because I remember Chris Ann Hall talking about the treaty. Yeah, I recommend check out her show on that. It's very good. You just go to Chris Ann Hall and talks about the whole Indian reservation, Indian treaty, and all that. They came out this past week, so check it out. And if this treaty, remember the treaty is actually the president's involved. So it'll be Donald Trump, not the Oklahoma governor. President Trump has to be involved in this as a treaty under Article 6 of a U.S. Constitution. So I'll continue on here. And of course, there are more attempts to break up the U.S. from by withdrawal from the Union post World War III, courtesy of the UN. And they're going to try to make Mexico territory all the way from New Mexico, Texas, Oklahoma. So, this whole division, they can care less. So you got areas of China and all that. Yeah, the whole thing is totally absurd. Very New World Order indeed. Above the map is the U.S. plan to divide America in the event of World War III. Gone bad for the United States, in which America is carved up in the proverbial Thanksgiving turkey. Canada wants to be annexed to the West Coast. All three states of the Pacific Coast voted for Hillary Clinton. The election of Donald Trump has spurred discussion on all three states leaving the United States and being annexed by, believe it or not, Canada. That's from the Seattle Times. Good grief. That's pretty pathetic. Yeah, so it shows you all that. And Greenland to be Greenland. So, they do want to join Canada? I don't think so. That'd be absurd because I'm expecting people going to be seceding there as well. The conclusion, I have saved the best for last with regard to tomorrow's article. At the center of this moment of withdrawing from the Union comes the resurgence of an old movement, and the genesis of this death blow to the United States already resides in the proposed bill in the California legislature that will be a topic of tomorrow's article, which will serve as part 2 for this concept of how America is going to be destroyed, secession. Interesting. So hopefully folks go to Dave Hodges' site, Dave Hodges' website, davehodges.com, I think it's called. The Common Sense showed up. Good site. I might have to look at that too, and I may just bring it up again. See what happens. But so this is more of the whole one world order agenda. This is what they want. They want to tell us how to think, tell us to shut up. This is how it's going to be done for your own well-being. Well, this is why the United Nations is a wicked institution. They want to divide us up, and the world will be a ripple effect for the world. So they can't rule us all. I'll give you one thing. I'll tell you one thing for sure, friends. They're going to fail, one way or the other. Guarantee you that. All right. It's on Longview, too. So we're going to do one more here. It's from newsbuzz.com. And you got to be a member to read this article. And it came out on the 8th. So it was a few days ago. It says here, your mind, your life, your freedoms. Well, I woke this morning, this is by Gordon Kent. Well, I woke this morning to the moans and groans, not from what's happening around the world, but from a mother cow giving birth to a young calf. This is one of the daily sounds that abound with us living next to the large dairy farm out here in the English countryside. The noise went on for some time and is kind of reflective of much of what's happening in the world right now. Amongst the total chaos and distressful anxiety that is encircling the globe at the moment, it somehow seems this is just part of the global growing pains that we all seem to be experiencing. There is no doubt that the human race has not only living in a bubble of self-imposed ignorance, but that we have all, without much concern or fight, subjected ourselves to a social system. Sorry about that. That is there for the survival of the few and certainly not for the many. We have been politically, financially, educationally, and socially corralled into a debt-ridden financial mess that force-fed our constant desire to have more than we actually need. Greed, envy, and vile form of must-have has driven our societies to the point where we have lost control of our real sense of purpose as human beings. Not is all, but though, as with all things in life, there are actual moments of pure love and understanding for our fellow human beings. For once we actually take the time to stop revolving around the financial money tree and take a breath, we can sometimes feel the calming realization that there is more to life in this world than possessions and money. This, I believe, is when people have a slight grasp at that defined phrase, the awakening. I don't believe it is something based on political opinion or religion or even some extraterrestrial input, but more about what is inside our very souls and the heart beating to the question of why we are here as human beings. The current outpour of hatred and constant desire to self-destruct will eventually fizzle out. Our hatred is very energy consuming, and its proponents will eventually lack the will of tirelessly keep hitting themselves on the head. It is then we must, as a race, look at what has come from such events and decide, do we want to keep going on this Ferris wheel of historical fighting and destruction, or can we actually learn something and look to a new world of opportunity based on learning and wisdom, so we can move into the human race into the future with a constraint of human greed? Without a doubt, it's all been designed in our DNA as warmongering species and certainly force-fed by the so-called global deep state, who care not for the souls of any good people, but feed on this hatred to sustain their own desire for power. So, you ask, what is all this leading to? Well, our understanding of war and how things develop has certainly been changing. Yes, it is a war, but as once said, not as we know it. This one is for the minds of the people, and you're probably by now one of the digital soldiers who have been conscripted to join the social media skirmishes taking place daily. The enemy is the MSM, or mainstream media, and the global deep state, who have looked upon you as no more than an ant in a nest scurrying around to feed their ever-increasing appetite for control and power. Make no mistake, your life, your existence, has no more meaning to them than that, and we are all very expendable to their cause. Hence the historical false flag events that have taken so many human lives. I will not delve into the specifics of these, as they are well known and the evidence overwhelming as to who orchestrated them. Without the doubt, the term deep state is real and has been developing and twisting its evil into every fabric of society for decades. It has many weapons, from politics, financial, social, educational, intelligence, and military, to make sure that their control is not only complete, but very difficult to remove. Hence the very difficult task that President Trump and his patriotic army are having in establishing and distinguishing them. Victory is not guaranteed, and yes, it is going to be a very long and hard-fought battle. But the real war is for you, your mind, and your submissiveness. Much is being discussed about slavery, and not by accident. However, understand you have never been free, and you are still chained to the slavery of the deep state. The only real freedom you have is your own mind, and will it take a clear and open mind to break free from the chains that hold you? Social brainwashing has been intensive, hidden, and constant. And social systems spoken about have been created to control your every thought. The main thing to consider at this time is what is real and what is FF events, false flags. Well, it is very difficult, as these are not games but battles, and that is why I urge people not to jump to conclusions about any reports or events in these difficult times. Some are real, some are FF, and some are disinformation. Actions to confuse the enemy. So yes, it's hard to know and frustrating when all is being thrown around the media like a pinball machine. Hence, a calm reflection and serious consideration should be made before any personal involvement, decisions, or conclusions are made. Will the good people win? Well, we better hope so, as the other option is not good. Is Q real? Sorry, I'm neither in the know nor anywhere never near clever enough to establish or confirm. However, as an entity, it has certainly created a worldwide phenomenon that has made people search, engage, and have the desire to question for answers and the truth. I have my difference with the Q, but it's a great point. Always go a little further. What we know, will we know everything? Possibly not. For much is very difficult for most to understand or even accept. So expect some drip feeding of disclosures and information in a very controlled and acceptable format. This is not to be unkind to any of us, but a needs must option, as we have decades of political and social issues and events to comprehend. Is there hope? Well, as long as you fight to control your own mind and thoughts and resist the urge to fall into the vile hatred campaign being used by the deep state and its agents, then yes, there is much hope and the chance that we can all emerge into a place, an atmosphere, where we each have our own individual level of enlightenment. I state, without any powers of knowledge or inside understanding of actual events, but as a person prepared to stop, think, and question everything. that is put in front of me. If you are prepared to stop being the social slave they want you to be, then they are lost, as you are. What they need in your mind, is their absolute goal. So together, we are unbeatable. Nicely done, Mr. Kent. Nicely done. Always question everything, my friends. That's why, if you're familiar with my podcast about myself, I tell people, always observe responsibly. Never focus on face value. Examine the fine print. And always learn how to better yourselves. Examine articles. Do your own fact-checking. Factcheck.org and Snopes, they're nothing more than deceptions anyway. They're total distractions as far as I'm concerned. And I prove them right. Someone try to send me that stuff and it has no merit. That's why you always got to look at things a lot more than what it is. How accurate is it? I don't have all the answers either. You have to have that art of war mindset. Sun Tzu. Know the enemy as you know yourself. You have a great chance of winning many battles. I'm just paraphrasing. So, we all have that will and ability on liberating ourselves. Physically, emotionally, and spiritually, etc. Bottom line is, folks, without us, they're nothing. They think we're useless eaters. Numbers to them, I don't believe that. And you shouldn't either. And you know what? And that is it. I'd like to thank everyone for listening. Plus, feel free to download and share us throughout your social media networks. If you have any questions, comments, if you sense something that's interesting you want to check out, whatever you do, please send your correspondence with decorum. Furthermore, I'll make sure I'll leave the footnotes on this episode on my Spreaker page. And folks, if you could give them support, subscription, donations, that would be great. Everything I address here is on the fair use notice. And even Newsbuds too. I am a member, so definitely give Isabel Edmonds some love. And if you want to send me some donations, if you want to send some contributions, you can hit me at paypal.me/LokiLuck3. Once again, thank you for your time. Plus, always remember that demoniac resistance is healthy for the soul and can liberate humanity. Till next time, take care of yourselves. Keep on spreading the love. And may your guardian spirits be with you.